Welcome to the Sober Unicorn. We are a gay-hosted, all-inclusive podcast about sobriety and addiction recovery for the LGBT plus community and all of our allies. I am your host, Holden, and thank you for joining us today. Well, hello, everybody. It's Holden back here again with the Sober Unicorn. I hope everybody's having an absolutely incredible day. And if you're not, reach out to me, reach out to any of the guests that have shared their social media platforms, or reach out to them and just chit chat. I mean, it's always good to reach out to somebody else that may have similar experiences to what you're going through, and maybe they can give some insight. Today, we have a colleague of mine. I've been trying to get this girl on this podcast for, I would say, at least a month and a half. But she's like a unicorn. She's hard to grasp her magical nature. So hello, Rachel. How are you?
Hi, Holden. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Waking up, just trying to get like my day rolling, but I'm exhausted. So I'm just trying to get everything started. So today, like last week, the episode is very light-hearted, very um happy. This episode is going to be a little bit more real and a little bit more situational in life and everything, and with Rachel's experiences. So why don't you kind of give everybody a little bit of a backstory on who you be, and kind of what led you into recovery and what your recovery kind of looks like.
Yeah, so it's been definitely a journey, 100%. And I just hit 2 years sober, so I'm about 2 years and a few months, which is insane to think about. And my life was just complete chaos for pretty much all of it. Um, so even though I feel grounded in my sobriety, I know that I can't get ahead of myself. I have to stay grounded and realize that anything can happen. But it's just crazy to think about what a different person I am. I mean, I have borderline personality disorder. So I used to be extremely suicidal, off the rails. So now it's just crazy how I handle situations. Because if you knew me before, it would, yeah, it's insane.
So the thing is, I know that kind of it's now becoming mainstream for mental health and addiction to be
Mhm.
talked about hand in hand, because before they were seen as very, very separate issues. Some people still see it that way, but for many people that struggle with substance or alcohol, whatever, I just call everything substance. um they were trying to run from something,
Mhm.
and they used any form of narcotic or alcohol to kind of numb the pain of what they were going through or didn't want to deal with, or self medicate. So, I mean, what, because of course you deal with, as you said, BPD, and you dealt with addiction issues. Like, what did you have to tackle first? I mean, the addiction or the mental health?
It was weird. I feel like the addiction, honestly, first, because that was the most prominent and the most out of hand at the time. At that point, I was drunk 24/7 for, I guess, like 2 months. I was locked in my room at my house. So the first priority was to just detox and get sober and learn how to live for like a month without anything mind altering, and then tackling the mental illness.
So, I mean, did you seek out treatment? Did you detox alone?
Um, I'm so sorry, something's coming in.
I told you, girl, you gotta mute those work notifications.
Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty insane, like the series of events. I was very, very suicidal one night, and I told my mom I was really intoxicated as well. And she called the police because she didn't know what to do. Um, I was very manipulative. So I ended up switching the scripts. This is when all the protesting was going on. So I was asking them, like, this must be so hard for you right now. And just, they like forgot about why I was in trouble. Um,
So you
and
essentially got 151s, or other people call it a Baker Act.
Yeah, at first it was they actually left my house. I thought they had left, but they were still on the street watching, I guess. My mom and I were on the front porch. I went to kick her. I missed, but I went upstairs in my room, and then yeah, all of a sudden I have three police officers rushing through my door, threw me on the floor, said stop resisting. I was like, I'm literally not resisting. And yeah, so I got arrested that night. I spent like seven hours in jail. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. And yeah, they sent me straight to the psych ward after that. While I was in the psych ward, I got my second bout of pancreatitis. I've had it about 5 times now. And yeah, so got the pancreatitis. I went through all of that. That was over the span of like a week. And then the second I got out of treatment or out of the hospital, I went and got some wine. So, like, that was a stressful week. Let me go drink.
I mean, but the thing is, I mean, I've heard so many people, like prior guests, say they would go to rehab and they would get out, be on their way to the airport or be on their way home and stop at the liquor store, literally fresh out of treatment.
Yeah. I mean, mine really, my recovery, I owe a lot to my parents just because my rock bottom, my mom took my keys. She knew I was going to get alcohol. She took my keys. She wouldn't give them back. And I actually ended up punching her. Um, and if you know me, I'm not a violent person whatsoever. I would never lay my hands on anybody, but at that point in time, that's all I cared about was the alcohol. And she wasn't my mom anymore. She was just an obstacle of getting in the way.
So, I
And
mean, after you punched her, did they send your ass to treatment or another psych ward?
yeah, so they sent me to treatment. My mom left the house. She had my dad stay with me and make sure I wasn't drinking anymore. She found a place down here. They couldn't get me in right away. I had to wait 5 days. So that was 5 days of detoxing pretty much on my own. And my parents both taking shifts, like 12 hours for my mom and 12 hours for my dad, of literally just watching me. And yeah, so then I got on the plane, came down here. By that point, I was so emotionally and physically exhausted that I just went for it. I didn't have any like fight in me left to resist it.
Well, the thing is, too, is like if anybody knows alcohol withdrawal, like it is not
Uh,
fun. So, I
yeah.
mean, I'm shocked that you did that by yourself. And so, of course, you went to treatment. After this bout in treatment, did you relapse again? Did you stay clean?
No, I stayed sober. And that was kind of the point I was getting at before, was just whenever like I feel down or have any kind of like intrusive thoughts, I just think, my parents took out of their retirement fund to send me to treatment after I like punched my mom in the face. So that's like, yeah, I feel like it would be the biggest metaphorical slap in the face
To do that,
to
yeah.
yeah.
It was crazy as I know you, and like I can never ever picture you like punching somebody out,
Yeah,
especially your mama.
yeah, I know. It's
So,
crazy.
of course, kind of rewinding. Um, I know struggles of mental health. You did mention there was like a lot of suicidal thoughts and stuff like that, and I think people don't discuss it enough on how often people with addiction or mental health struggles think about suicide or even attempt suicide. So, I mean, did you ever attempt suicide?
Yeah, so I attempted when I was 22, um and that was cutting my wrist, and I lost feelings in my one hand. I still my one hand, I know, like, I can't, like, you wouldn't notice, it's not, like, crazy, but my one hand, I still can't do, like, certain finger movements. But, it's weird, it's like history repeats itself. So when I was 22, I was in a really toxic relationship, abusive, hit a rock bottom, drank myself almost to death, had a suicide attempt, and then went to get some help. And that happened all over again when I was 25, which was this time around. So it was another abusive relationship, really stressed. In that case, I had my ex actually telling me to commit suicide and telling me what to say and what to put in the notes. And um, luckily, I passed out before I actually went through with it. So it's the one ironic way that alcohol saved my life.
So the thing is with the two attempted suicides now under your belt, or well, one attempted, one kind of nearly attempted.
Mhm.
Um, like what do you do now to combat those thoughts when they come?
Just grounding myself. And I mean, I'll literally come like in my apartment and just sit and absorb everything. I've never been this independent and in this healthy of a relationship and actually have a apartment that's mine. Um, so just reminding myself how hard I've worked and what I would be leaving behind. And the thoughts really aren't as severe or almost non-existent as they were, because I mean, I'm telling you, like, I had from the time I was like 15 years old to 25 years old, it was every single day these extremely strong suicidal ideations and thoughts. And now I have like none. um and I don't know if that's the medication or being sober or having the therapies or a combination of all three, but something is really working.
And I think also talking about it. Um, the thing is like when you attempt or when you have all these thoughts, a lot of people keep them bottled in because they're in fear of being put in a psych ward. They're in fear of people looking down on them for thinking these things. Because of course,
Mhm.
wanting to kill yourself isn't an easy, like a good thought, of course. Um, but I think bringing that out to attention that to your parents, to your friends, to your loved one, to your partnership, that's like, hey, I'm having these thoughts and I want them to stop. It kind of helps bring it into reality. Just kind of like going to a meeting and being like, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict, whatever it is. It like brings the reality of the situation into play. So it's same thing for me. It's like telling somebody I want to commit suicide is far more real than just thinking I want to commit suicide.
Yeah, for sure. And even now, even when I'm in a stable place, obviously, I still have very like mild suicidal ideations, maybe like once every 4 months, and it'll be over something pretty ridiculous. It'll just kind of hit me. And even then, with all my friends and my partner being in recovery, that's still such a like, I guess, scary thing for anyone to hear. Because even if I'm like, I'm just having a suicidal ideation, everyone kind of freaks out. But it really is. I think, like you said, that's the difference of an ideation and then an actual attempt.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion,
Exactly.
they're a world of difference. But a lot of people, they hear suicidal and that's it. It's just black and white. So it can be a little difficult to express it without people being like genuinely concerned.
Of course.
But
So what do you think has helped you the most with I know you said like whether it's medication, therapy, stuff like that, you don't really know what's working for you, but I mean in all the trials and tribulations that has been your life, what do you think has impacted the suicidal ideations the most? Meaning, even though you have them, you won't take yourself out because of this.
They're really passive, which is good. They come and go. Before they used to be there, just like I said, constantly. And yeah, like I said, just grounding myself and realizing everything that I would leave behind. Um, and even now, before when I was trying to fight the ideations, that's where self harm would come in because it's like that middle ground. And I've had a couple of urges to self harm, but I just don't, which is easier said than done. But
No, of course, of course. I mean, the thoughts. I mean, it's always hard to combat the thoughts, especially when it's cutting rather than, well, it's only cutting and it's a
yeah.
release type of thing. Especially if you do it superficially, which if anybody
Hmm.
doesn't know, that means like across the wrist and like no stitches needed. But so we always talk here on the podcast. We always talk about drug addiction.
Hmm.
Um, and the thing is, the form of addiction can happen in many, many, many forms of life. Like I know one of my addictions um, is men. Well, not even men. I think it's just me the desire of feeling wanted, the want to be wanted. I would say from other people. That surrounds a lot of my meth addiction. Book coming out soon. You can read all about it. Um, but what are some other parts of your life that your addiction shows face?
So I think the biggest one is my eating disorder. That's been as prominent as the addiction. They've kind of been like best friends. When I was 21 and I had my first bout of everything, of being very dependent on alcohol or weed or at that point psychedelics, anything I could get my hands on. I was anorexic, and there was a period of time where I was okay and I gained some weight back and I was completely fine and not definitely not sober, but more sober than I was prior. And then, yeah, the second time around, it was the same exact thing. I was anorexic at first, but then bulimic. Um, and, I don't want to speak on it, but since I have experienced both, I think bulimia is a little more complicated and a little harder to overcome. Because even now, it's really hard. Like a big aspect of it is binge eating, and then the purging is where I would get the release. And my body is so shut down from all of the purging I used to do that that's not an option. So then the binge eating takes play. And that goes in with the body dysmorphia and the thoughts of anorexia. And it's just weird. The eating disorder compared to the alcoholism is like 100 times harder.
And what do you do today to kind of assist with that? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's an everyday thing. I still get to points where I can't look in a mirror for like a week at a time or I'll freak out, but just very little baby steps. Replacing, like I've been replacing things with like bananas, so I don't feel as guilty if I do have a binge eating day. And then the purging, it's kind of like the alcoholism. It's like I know that if I slip up once, everything can just go away. So that's what keeps me grounded on all fronts.
yeah, no, completely understandable. Well, not I binge eat, but that's just because I'm a big girl. Um, but I mean, I can't begin to even understand what going through that can is like. But so kind of like moving, shifting into like more lighthearted notes. Like what I would say, what is the biggest gift recovery has given to you?
I would say stability. Um, and honestly, my authentic self back because I lost her for a really long time and I didn't even know who I was anymore. And so to just, even though it sounds like cliche, but just to find myself and love myself again. And it was kind of like dating, like all of a sudden, especially with BPD, where you have that kind of split personality. Um, just getting to know myself again and what my boundaries are and my likes and dislikes and then just everything that comes with it. Having an amazing partner, being financially stable. I was very, very dependent and codependent on my parents, and now that's just such a liberating feeling to not need anything from them. Um, so all in all, yeah, it's just I feel like everything is a blessing and a gift.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, yeah, financially stable girl be buying like $5 mammoth bars every day. Those are so good. Um, and of course, I'm assuming your partner's in recovery. Is that correct?
He is, yeah. We actually met in rehab.
Rehab romance.
Yep.
So how like the thing is, I was how do you balance the fact that y'all are both in recovery? I mean, is it like anytime y'all have an argument, it's an immediate like 5 minutes later, I'm sorry, my character defects are coming out. Like, I mean, how do you kind of balance the fact of like y'all are both in your own recovery as well as like in a partnership?
Well, we're just a really good balance, and no one believes me when I say this, but we've literally never had an argument or disagreement. We've been together for a year and a half. And yeah, we've never had any kind of argument, never raised our voices at each other, never gotten like petty. Um, we're just really, really good at communication. And I think it actually helps that we went to treatment together. We were friends for a while before we started dating, but that's where we just saw the raw versions of ourselves. Like both of us had just gotten clean and had to share and heal. And so I think that makes us both a lot more compassionate and understanding of the other ones. Like I can tell when he's not in a good headspace, and he can tell when I'm not in a good headspace. And we just go from there and we know how to help each other.
Hmm. And what would you, before we wrap the episode, what would you say to a person that is either sober curious or in their first 90 days of sobriety that struggles either with like major mental health issues or eating disorders, or I mean just anything similar to what you've gone through? What would you recommend to them in their first 90 days?
Okay, I know this is like the worst, cheesiest thing to say, but literally one step at a time or one day at a time. Don't give me that look.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love the one day at a time because trust and believe, girl, yesterday was like extremely hard for me. And I was like, just get through today and go to bed. You'll be okay tomorrow.
Yeah, and just to be, open. It's really scary to be vulnerable and um, you know, be honest about everything you're going through, but especially if you're in a recovery community, 9 times out of 10, no one's gonna judge you or belittle you based on your feelings. They're just there to support. So I would just say, yeah, just stay open and honest and because the worst thing you can do is, be alone with your thoughts and yourself. And that's when you start to spiral.
Exactly. I mean, I like if anybody know, I mean, Rachel is crazy, like, but we don't judge her for it. So, before we wrap, what is one thing that you would like to tell everybody that you haven't so far?
Just I don't know, this is on the spot. I would say, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I know how hard it is. I call it the perfect trifecta. borderline personality disorder, eating disorder, and alcoholic. Um, so if I can overcome all three of those things, I know anyone can overcome anything. And just like you said, alcohol or substance abuse kind of goes hand in hand with mental illness. So just always keep your mental state okay, and learn that it's okay to put yourself first and your mental state first. Because I still have a hard time doing that.
Mhm.
But self care is number one.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for finally joining us here on the Sober Unicorn.
I had to build up some anticipation.
It wasn't that bad. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Hit that follow button to be notified about new episodes every week. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at The Sober Unicorn Podcast or on our website at thesoberunicornpodcast.com. There you will find our episodes as well as our very own sober-owned shop featuring products from small businesses that are sober-owned. And remember everyone, don't be normal, be a unicorn, but better yet, be a sober unicorn.